Frances walked past a row of fences to reach her mother's grave. The cemetery was dark and eerie, with only the sound of howling wind and cawing crows. Frances stopped near a familiar grave and wiped her mother's picture from the dust, feeling as if her warm, radiant eyes were smiling at her. Overwhelmed with emotion, Frances cried out, "Hello, Mummy. Yesterday I went to the police again, but they chased me away. It seems like the person who hit you is either rich or connected to the police, as everything was hushed up so quickly. They know I'm alone and don't have the money for a good lawyer. But don't think I've given up. No, I'm determined to find out the name of the person who took your life. Otherwise, I won't be able to live a normal life. Mummy, I feel so lost without you. Why is life so unfair? Why did you have to leave so early? You left me all alone in this world. May you rest in peace. I should go now. I have to wake up early for work tomorrow." Tears clouded Frances's eyes and she barely made it home, barely seeing where she was going. She felt cold and longed for a cup of hot tea, but her hands were too weak to lift anything. The sadness overwhelmed her, and she collapsed onto the old, worn-out sofa, bursting into tears once again, yearning for her most beloved and closest person. Frances's childhood could hardly be described as happy. She grew up alone with her mother in an old house that resembled more of a barn. The walls were cracked and barely held together, the water supply intermittent, and the roof leaked. Frances's mother, Magda, worked as a cleaner in a roadside cafe. The work was very hard, the pay was meagre, and it was a long way to get there. Nothing was known about her father. Frances's mother did not answer any questions about him and only cried, so Frances stopped bothering her. The girl never had any good things, gadgets or fancy toys. That is why Frances hated school. She was called names and disliked there. In the back they constantly shouted, "Beggar! Look guys, she has holes in her sweater sewn up." The girl studied quite well and finished school almost perfectly. Her mum persuaded her to try to enroll in college, giving 1,000 arguments. "Honey, just look at me. Do you want to repeat my fate? Being a janitor all your life? You're smart. At least try to get in. If you get an education, you'll find a good job. But if not, you'll be stuck working for pennies your whole life." While Frances doubted whether to enroll or not, life made its terrible adjustments. Once in the middle of the night, Frances woke up to find the room filled with acrid smoke and the kitchen on fire. The girl remained calm. She broke the window, miraculously managed to pull out her almost unconscious mother, and jumped out behind herself. Neighbours rushed over, frantically attempting to extinguish the fire, but their efforts were in vain. When the fire brigade arrived, everything was over. The old wooden house burned to the ground like a dry match. In just one night, Frances and her mum were left with nothing. No home, no belongings, and no documents. Clad only in their nightgowns and robes, they sobbed and embraced each other. Though others tried to console them, reminding them that they were fortunate to be alive, the women were filled with terror. They wondered how, and more importantly, where they would live now. Frances's mother tirelessly sought assistance from various authorities, hoping to secure housing. However, all she received were disappointing responses. They told her that the house had long been deemed unsafe, and since she had declined previous opportunities to relocate, they had no obligation to provide her with a new place. Magda and her daughter had no choice but to rent a small, one-room apartment on the outskirts of the city and slowly rebuild their lives, including obtaining new documents. They were grateful for the kindness of those who supported them, as otherwise they would have been left with nothing. Following this incident, Frances made a decision. "No, Mum, I don't have time to go to college now. I'm going to work and help you. We'll manage together." Unfortunately, trouble seemed to follow them. On that fateful evening, Frances was waiting for her mother to return from work. She made her favourite dish, fried potatoes with mushrooms. However, darkness had already fallen, but her mother still hadn't arrived, and the girl grew increasingly worried. Her mother had never been late before, and she had no plans to go anywhere. Why was she taking so long? A sense of heaviness and anxiety weighed on Frances, and then the police called her with devastating news. Her mother was dead. She had been fatally struck by a hit-and-run driver while crossing the road. The unfortunate woman passed away without regaining consciousness. In a state of stupor, Frances went to identify her mother's body. She lost consciousness 3 times, barely recognizing her loved one in such a terrible state. The details of the funeral and wake were a blur, as if she had been heavily sedated the entire time. Neighbours from the street and her mother's colleagues helped with the funeral expenses. At the cemetery, whispers of sympathy filled the air. Poor Frances, how sad! Life was already difficult for her, and now, alone without her mother's care, without money, she will surely be lost. This grief weighed heavily on Frances, and the bitterest part was that the hit-and-run case was quickly closed without a thorough investigation. A year had passed and Frances found herself wandering from one office to another, desperately seeking justice. But she was met with indifference at every turn. Frances urgently needed to find a job in order to support herself, but it wasn't easy. Without education or experience, she struggled to find decent employment. She ended up working as a cleaning lady at a company that specialized in personnel hiring. The salary was small, and the work was far from suitable for a young and beautiful girl. However, Frances was grateful to have at least a job to pay for her apartment and buy food. The employees at the firm looked at her with bewilderment and condescension, unable to comprehend why a young and attractive girl would resort to such work. Amidst her sad thoughts after visiting the cemetery, Frances fell asleep late. The next morning she reluctantly headed back to her unloved job. The monotony and hopelessness were suffocating her. Poverty had plagued her since childhood, and she saw no way out of it. Around lunchtime, a respectable gentleman in his 30s entered the office. He was tall, dignified, with a penetrating gaze and a strong chin. Frances couldn't help but admire him, as she had only seen men like him in movies. In real life, she had encountered aimless young men without any drive, whom she easily dismissed. The man approached her and asked, "Good afternoon. Can you tell me where the director's office is?" He held a beautiful, expensive leather briefcase and a black folder with documents in his hands. Frances blushed and managed to respond, "Hello, you need to go to the 2nd floor and turn left. It's the first door on your left." The man nodded and stared at Frances for a long time as if evaluating her. This look made the girl shiver. She sighed dreamily, thinking to herself, "If only such a handsome man would marry me." But she immediately warned herself, "I dreamed too much. Handsome men don't marry cleaning girls." A couple of hours passed, and Frances started cleaning the restrooms. Suddenly, in the men's room, on the windowsill, she found the black folder that the visitor had been holding. He must have forgotten it. Frances dropped her cleaning tools, took off her gloves, grabbed the documents, and ran to the director's office. Timidly, she knocked and said, "A visitor who had recently come to you forgot a folder. He was tall, handsome, and wearing a dark blue suit. Please give it to him." The director smiled and said, "Ah, so this is Mario Cohen, our co-founder. Thank you, Frances, I'll call him now." For some reason, Frances's heart fluttered and she remained standing in place, smiling foolishly. The director laughed and said, "Why are you standing there? Go back to work." At the end of the workday, Frances changed clothes and was about to leave when she heard a voice behind her. "Thank you for returning the folder with documents. If they had fallen into the wrong hands, I can't even imagine what would have happened. My name is Mario, and you're Frances. I've already been informed." "Well, Frances, have you finished? Then let's go to the restaurant for dinner. I must thank you. Refusal is not accepted." Frances blushed, feeling embarrassed in her old, out-of-fashion sweater and cheap jeans. "Thank you, but I'm not comfortable," she mumbled. "I'm not ready for a restaurant, and to be honest, I've never been to one. Maybe some other time." However, Mario commanded, "I don't like to be contradicted. Don't worry, we'll improve your appearance on the way. Get in the car." Frances didn't dare to argue with this authoritative gentleman and got into the expensive car with stiff legs. She remained silent and blinked her eyes, not knowing where she was being taken or what would happen next. The driver stopped near a fashionable boutique. Mario resolutely took Frances's hand and led her inside. He smiled charmingly at the salespeople and said, "Good afternoon. I need to take this princess to the restaurant right away. Dress her beautifully, as you know how to do." The salespeople seemed to know this client well. They quickly brought dresses and shoes to the fitting room and dressed up Frances. In just 10 minutes, a beautiful girl emerged from the fitting room, wearing a warm, tight, peach-coloured dress that fit perfectly, high boots that accentuated her slender legs, and a coffee-coloured coat and small leather handbag that completed the look. Frances couldn't believe her eyes. She had never owned such stylish and expensive things. However, she was also discouraged because she knew they cost a fortune by her standards. There was no way she could afford to pay for them. The evening was unforgettable. Slow and pleasant music filled the luxurious restaurant. Frances felt like she was in a fairy tale. She had grown up in poverty and had never experienced such a luxurious life. She felt like Cinderella brought to the ball by a handsome prince. She was afraid that midnight would strike and everything would disappear, just like in the story. Mario looked at her and she felt her heart skip a beat. They had a nice and relaxed conversation. He told her many interesting things about his travels abroad. Frances realized that she had fallen in love, completely and irrevocably. She hung on to every word Mario said, and he seemed more and more exalted in her eyes. When they parted, Mario swept her into his arms and kissed her passionately. He whispered, "I'll call you soon, dear Frances. Don't forget about me. You have no idea how amazing you looked at the restaurant. It pleased me." So they started meeting each other from time to time. Usually, Mario would call in the afternoon to set up a date. Then the courier would bring flowers and an expensive outfit, and they would go out together and have fun. After a month, Mario unexpectedly took Frances to a 5-star hotel. They entered a luxurious suite, and Mario began kissing Frances and gently pushing her towards the large bed. He whispered sweet words to her, calling her his tender beloved and most desired. "Wait, I can't, I'm afraid," Frances whispered back. But Mario reassured her, saying, "I understand. Don't be afraid. I love you, and everything will be fine. But don't you want this too? I can sense it." Frances hesitated, unable to resist. Though a part of her knew this was all wrong and shouldn't be happening, her heart yearned for his affection and love. A couple of months passed in this fairy tale-like scenario until Frances started feeling terribly nauseous in the mornings. She constantly felt tired and had a strong urge to sleep. Initially, she thought it might be food poisoning. However, when these symptoms persisted every day for a month, she became scared and decided to see a doctor. The diagnosis shocked her. She was pregnant, and most likely with twins. She didn't know whether to rejoice or cry. She and Mario had never discussed having children, and their meetings had only taken place in the hotel. She had no idea how he would react to this news. Anxiously, she awaited their next date. As soon as Mario called her, he could tell something was wrong. He asked her directly, "What happened? You look pale. You have dark circles under your eyes. Have you been crying?" Frances swallowed hard and confessed, "Mario, please don't get upset. I'm pregnant." Here are the ultrasound results. It's still early, but it appears that twins are on the way. They're your babies too, right? I'm so scared." Mario recoiled and grasped his head, exclaiming, "What a fool you are! Were you born yesterday? I thought you were using protection. There are special pills available now. This is all so embarrassing, baby. Look, maybe it's not too late to get rid of it. I'll find a good doctor who can do it anonymously and carefully. I'll take care of all the expenses. I'm at the peak of my career, and I'm going abroad soon. I don't want kids yet. Don't get me wrong. And you're still so young. 2 is such a burden. Be smart. Listen to me. Do as I say. We're fine the way we are. Why complicate such an easy relationship? You must understand that I won't marry you. I just won't be understood in high society." Frances sat there, heartbroken. She never expected such cynicism from the man she loved. She cried and pleaded, "Mario, I don't want to terminate it. These are living beings. Why are you even with me if you didn't want to get married? I thought you loved me and that we were serious." Suddenly Mario replied sharply and harshly, "Don't be ridiculous, baby. Am I not doing enough for you? Is something lacking? This is life, not a fairy tale. Yes, I like you, and yes, I'm happy with you, but don't expect more. I've said it all. Either you do as I suggested, and we continue seeing each other as before, or you can live your life as you please, but without me. And don't try to blackmail me with illegitimate children. I won't acknowledge them. Think, and think hard." Frances ran out of the restaurant in tears and walked home. She sobbed and resented. Jerk! Such a jerk! To him, I'm just a girl for pleasure, a beautiful doll and nothing more. What a fool I've been. A businessman and a washerwoman. It's really ridiculous. God, what am I going to do? How am I going to support 2 kids on my own? It's so disgusting and revolting. I mean nothing to Mario. I wish I had never met him at all. But how can I live without his touch, his lips, his tenderness? How can I make myself forget him? He tamed me like a stray puppy and then threw me out of his life. The next day after work, Frances went to the cemetery to visit her mother. She fell to her knees and sobbed beside her mother's grave. "Mummy, I'm so lost. I've fallen into a trap. I thought I had captured happiness by the tail, but it has turned into a disaster. Mummy, what can I do? I'm following in your footsteps. What will I tell my children? Where is their father? How will I manage with 2? And maybe Mario is right, and I should do as he said. Why won't you say anything? Please tell me." Suddenly the sky darkened, and a strong gust of wind blew, followed by a downpour that seemed to come out of nowhere. The girl was frightened by the eerie and mystical atmosphere. She crossed herself and whispered, "I understand now, Mum. I won't go against your wishes. I won't harm the children. I will endure everything. This is my fate. Thank you for your guidance, my dear." As Frances walked back home, the sky cleared and the sun peeked out. It seemed like the usual changeable spring weather, nothing out of the ordinary. But the girl was certain that all of this had had a more in-depth meaning. She knew her mother believed in her and would never agree to getting rid of the babies. She would face the challenge and find joy in having 2 little blessings. When Frances called Mario to inform him of her decision to keep the children, he abruptly hung up the phone and disappeared from her life forever, going abroad on a long business trip. Homesickness and depression overwhelmed the girl as she desperately missed him. Her mind understood that he was a scoundrel and their relationship had no future, but her heart betrayed her, longing for his sweet embrace. Soon her co-workers learned about her situation. The news spread, and jokes and laughter followed. They whispered, "Our cleaning lady went off the rails and got pregnant by some unknown man. How disgraceful." Washing floors all day long became increasingly difficult for Frances. She grew tired and counted down the days until her maternity leave. She ate very little, trying to save money for the birth of her children. As a result, her belly wasn't very big, despite carrying twins. After going on maternity leave, life became even more difficult for her. The girl took the place of her retired cleaning lady to clean the territory of her apartment building, even though it was unbearable. One day, overwhelmed with despair, hopelessness and tiredness, she sat down on a frozen bench with a groan. Her back ached, sweat streamed down her back, and Frances suddenly cried out as she looked at the steam rising from her rough red hands. Nearby, a homeless man lingered near the dumpster, his age indistinguishable due to a tangled beard and a hat pulled down over his eyes. He approached Frances and timidly asked, "What are you doing, sister? Mopping floors while pregnant? You shouldn't be doing this. Why are you crying?" Frances had so much on her mind that she poured out her heart to this stranger. "I can't take it any more. I've been unlucky since birth. I lived with my mother in a hut, then it burnt down. My mum was run over by some scumbag on a crosswalk. I had to become a cleaner myself, but I met a rich businessman on the way. He beckoned me with a beautiful life and sweet speeches. I was a naive fool, and when I got pregnant he left me. How am I supposed to live? I have no savings, and I'm so tired of fighting for a piece of bread. I'm sorry that I'm blowing your mind, but I needed to express myself. I need to go." She stood up, but the homeless man inquired, "What's your name, sister? Where do you live?" Frances hesitated, but replied, "I'm Frances. I rent an apartment in the corner building, number 44. Why are you asking? And what's your name?" The homeless man exclaimed, "I'm Tom. Wait here. I'll be right back. I'll help you as much as I can. Keep your head up." Frances waved her hand, doubting that a homeless man could truly help her. She wandered back home. As she finished her tea in the kitchen, the doorbell rang. She opened the door, surprised by the unexpected visitor. It was Tom, standing on the doorstep with a bag of food and vitamins. "Here, take this. It's food. Vitamins. Eat it. You look pale." "Don't worry, it's not from the garbage. I bought it at the store with the money I got from returning bottles." Frances was moved to tears by this unexpected act of kindness from a stranger. She thanked Tom and invited him in for tea to warm up. He declined, saying he had important things to do and had to visit all the dumps before it got dark. He added, "The wolf feeds by its feet. I'll come back. You eat. It's from the heart." Frances spread the contents of the bag on the table and cried tears of joy. There were apples, oranges, sausage, bread, milk, cheese, and even 2 crispy hot buns from the bakery. It had been a long time since she had enjoyed such treats. She savoured the food with great pleasure and silently wished Tom good health and blessings. He had sacrificed for her, a stranger in need. From that day on, Frances and Tom became friends. The homeless man helped her wash the floors and carried water for her so that she wouldn't have to work so hard. He would come to her for tea and warmth. Frances let him take a shower at her apartment, and they talked a lot about life. Frances talked more, while Tom was always a little wordy and silent. She often complained about where to buy a used crib and stroller. But Tom grumbled, "You do not hurry. You shouldn't buy anything before childbirth. I heard it's a bad omen. Here you will give birth, then buy." Frances laughed and said, "With 2 screaming babies, how will I buy it? Oh, Tom, I'm so scared. To be honest, 2 at once. Will I manage? How will I survive with them? My head is spinning." Tom smiled and tried to encourage her, saying, "Don't worry, sister. We'll get through this. I'll help you in any way I can. You are good that you decided to give birth. Children are happiness. They are from God. and you have two at once. So wait, soon you'll be twice as happy." Francis laughed and replied, "Oh, Tom, don't be ridiculous. I think happiness and I live on different sides of the world." Before the birth, which was less than a month away, Francis persisted in cleaning, although the elderly concierge, Mrs. Oliver, grumbled, "Stop carrying buckets, girl, or you'll give birth here on the stairs, and we'll have a scandal. I've arranged for you to work illegally out of the goodness of my heart." But Francis only smiled and tried to cheer up. "I really appreciate you helping me, but don't worry, I won't give birth here. I still have a month to go, and I really need the money." That day there was a serious snowstorm, and for some reason Tom didn't come, even though they had agreed. Francis had almost finished cleaning everything, but suddenly she felt sick, and a hellish, unbearable pain pierced her whole body. Blood rushed down her legs. The poor woman barely made it to the apartment and called an ambulance. Francis's condition worsened, and she was taken away on a stretcher in a semi-fainting state. Tom was late for a whole hour, and approaching Francis's apartment building, he blamed himself. "I'm not a man of my word. I promised to help Francis. She'll think I'm a blabbermouth." He knocked and rang the doorbell, but no one opened the door. Dreadful thoughts crept into his head. The man went down and asked the concierge, "Mrs. Oliver, do you know where Francis from the 44th is? Did something happen?" The elderly woman got angry and replied, "What is it to you? Who let you in the first place?" "Yes, something's happened. Whoa, that's what. That little fool came to clean again. I tried to chase her away as I felt the trouble, but she wouldn't let me. So she got sick, she started bleeding. The ambulance crew barely made it through such a snowstorm. They took her to the maternity hospital. Oh, what will happen? I'm so scared." Tom, not remembering himself, rushed to the maternity hospital, despite the heavy snowstorm and frost. He pounded the thresholds and asked for anything about Francis. Tired of chasing him away, the nurse finally asked with ill-concealed arrogance and contempt, "Who are you? The baby's father? Wow, some women are ready to give birth to anything, even tramps. Are there no more normal men? But okay, I'll tell you, she's undergoing surgery. It's a complicated case. Wait here." Tom was almost crying. "I beg you, tell me later how she is. How are the babies? I'll wait in the corridor as long as necessary. Yes, I'm the father and these are my children. Do you understand?" Tom lied brazenly, but he realized that otherwise he'd be chased away. Another hour passed, but it seemed like an eternity to Tom. It was as if time had stopped. He had been thinking about many things. In front of his eyes stood this beautiful, laughing and at the same time sad, desperate woman. He himself did not understand why she so caught him, why he just physically could not live without Francis, and he didn't care that she was giving birth to another man's children, and it didn't matter how many there were, 1, 2, or 10. He'll take them all as his own, as long as she was always near him. There was some inner bond between them, a special warmth. At last, a tired, grey-haired doctor came out to him and said, "You are the father of Francis' babies. Congratulations, you have twins, a boy and a girl. They are weak, of course, but nothing to worry about. I'll write you a list of things to buy for premature babies. Bring it tomorrow. And now please go home, you can't see her now." Tom was over the moon. "Thank you, I'll buy everything. I'll be there tomorrow morning." The doctor looked at him critically. "By the way, you should at least clean yourself up. It's a maternity hospital after all." But Tom didn't hear him any more. Only one thought was beating in his brain. His beloved Francis is alive, and the babies are well too. And that means everything will be all right. The next day, Francis was transferred to the general double ward, and the babies were brought in for feeding. They were tiny and funny, like 2 shriveled gnomes. When Francis saw her babies, she sobbed with happiness. She was a mum now, and no longer alone. She had 2 little bundles of joy. Suddenly, her ward neighbour, who was standing near the window, said excitedly, "Look, another happy daddy. He's writing something in the snow. What a strange, shaggy man. Is he a homeless person?" Upon hearing this, Frances opened her eyes and struggled to rise. She waddled to the window, even though it was difficult. What she saw shocked her. There stood a joyful Tom, and on the snow in huge letters it was written, "Frances, I love you." Overwhelmed, Frances burst into tears. She waved to Tom like a madwoman and blew him air kisses. The neighbour looked at her perplexed and said, "Is he your husband? He looks like a drunken vagrant. That's hilarious." Frances brushed off her comments, saying, "You don't understand anything. This is the best man in the world. Do you understand? He may be a hobo, but he didn't abandon me. He was there for me in the toughest moment, when I didn't want to live. He starved himself to buy me groceries and cleaned the floors instead of me, so I wouldn't have to work too hard. He is a real man." Frances didn't care what others thought. This was her life and nobody else's. She had a roof over her head, even if it wasn't her own. She had feelings, support, and together they would overcome anything. A nurse entered and shocked Frances once again, saying, "Your children's father brought all the necessary things for newborns, so don't worry." Frances was shocked. Where did Tom get the money? An hour later there was a timid knock on the ward door, and a handsome, red-haired man in a police suit entered. He smiled, held a bouquet in his hands, and walked straight to Frances. She blinked her eyes and looked at him dumbfounded. Tom? The same warm blue eyes and smile, but where were the beard and braids? What kind of masquerade was this? Meanwhile, Tom sat down on a chair and said, "Frances, I congratulate you on the birth of the babies. I'm sorry I wasn't there when you were sick. I rushed as fast as I could, but there was a snowstorm and I was an hour late. I thought I'd go crazy when I heard you were bleeding and taken away in an ambulance. Now, I'll tell you the truth. I'm not really a bum or a vagrant. I'm an undercover police officer. All this time I've been investigating a drug den and a distribution point in your neighbourhood. When I first saw you crying and so defenceless on that bench, something in me changed. It wasn't just pity, but something bigger and lighter filled my soul. I can't explain it. I can't be without you, Frances. Marry me. The children will be ours, and I'll give them my last name. I want to spend my whole life with you, and I don't need anyone else. I have my own 2-bedroom place, and I'll take you and the kids there if you agree. I'm not a millionaire, I'm not rich, and my job is dangerous, but I'll always be there for you." The other woman in the ward wept, and then she went out into the corridor, realizing that Frances and Tom needed a moment alone. Frances cried tears of happiness and whispered, "Tommy, my darling, thank you for everything. I agree. I believe in you, and you supported me in my darkest hour. But I'm scared. What if you quickly get tired of everything? Taking care of 2 babies is very hard. There will be sleepless nights and exhaustion. Will you be able to love them as your own? Just answer honestly. And how will your parents react to all this? They'll probably be against it." "I will try very hard," Tom said firmly. "You just trust me. I won't betray you, hurt you, or disappear. Now we are together, hand in hand for life. I love you, Frances. I've always lived my own life. My relationship with my parents is not excellent. My father is from law enforcement, and my mother has suffered because of it. She categorically did not want me to become a police officer, but I decided, and I don't regret it. If they love me, they'll accept my choice." They hugged each other tightly and sat like that until the children were brought in for feeding. The boy was stronger and ate by himself, while the girl had to be fed from a special bottle to make it easier for her. Tom decided to do it himself. He carefully took the baby, smiled at her, and began to slowly feed her. He didn't rush, gave her a breath and said, "Eat, eat, my little Thumbelina. Eat, sweetie. Grow big and make your mummy and daddy happy. That's a good girl. There's just a little bit left, so do your best." Surprisingly, the girl heard him, sighed and finished the rest of the mixture. Frances was filled with admiration. She had never dared to dream of such happiness, and had thought that she would remain a lonely poor woman with 2 children. Upon discharge, Tom arrived in a company car with a huge bouquet of roses and balloons. This day would forever be remembered by Frances as the happiest. Bright sunshine dazzled her eyes, snowflakes were swirling. They were congratulated by the medical staff. Tom got Frances and the babies in the car and happily said, "Let's go to my house, I have everything ready there." Frances timidly entered Tom's apartment and gasped. He had thought of everything. The nursery had everything they needed, including cribs, a changing table with a dresser, stocked with neatly stacked diapers and onesies, and a twin stroller. "Here, I bought what I could," Tom said with embarrassment. "If something is missing, just tell me. Don't be shy. This is our home now. Let's celebrate." The man deftly undressed both of the babies. Frances fed them, and they fell asleep sweetly, warm in the warmth. Frances and Tom went into the kitchen. The man began to fuss, but Frances pulled him back, saying, "No, let me set the table myself. You wait for the ready." Frances put the groceries on the table and quickly prepared lunch. They sat down to eat, feeling incredibly nice and comfortable. It felt like she and Tom had been together all their lives. After eating, Frances hugged Tom and kissed him, whispering, "Thank you. You are the best. I love you too. I'll be waiting for you when you're off duty. Every day I'll cook the meal for you and bake pies. I'll pray for you. Tom, how happy I am that I met you back then. I really didn't want to live." Tom was in awe. These were the words he had been waiting to hear from Frances. He had long dreamed of having a large and loving family, and now his dream had come true. Soon the couple quietly married. Tom legally adopted the children, and they began to live a normal family life. At first, not everything was smooth. Frances was extremely tired, physically exhausted from trying to do everything. She wanted to have enough time for the children, household chores, and to show affection to her husband. But with twins it was very difficult. Sometimes Frances would forget to eat, as she was constantly busy. Tom helped her as much as he could on weekends, but on weekdays he was on duty and would come home late in the evening. He would invariably find his wife dishevelled, with huge circles under her eyes, completely drained. Soon the man realised that this was unsustainable, and that Frances needed to get some rest. After all, taking care of 2 children was not easy, especially when they were restless, had tummy aches and slept poorly, constantly demanding attention. Tom's parents were not old, well-to-do retired people. They could have helped with the children, but initially they strongly opposed their son's marriage to a cleaning lady with 2 babies in her arms. This led to arguments and a complete breakdown in communication. Tom's mother, Mrs. Berger, was particularly angry. "Our son has finally gone mad. Why does he need this girl who is a tramp? She has 2 babies, and our fool picked her up. It's incomprehensible. All the neighbours are laughing. Our boy is so smart, successful in his career. His bosses appreciate him. He had Holly. She was a perfect match for him. Her father is Tom's boss, so Tom had great prospects. No, I'll never accept Frances, and I won't even go to meet that ragamuffin." Tom's father had a different opinion, saying, "Honey, calm down. Don't boil over. Don't you think Tom loves that woman? Again, we don't know her at all. Maybe we should at least try to strengthen our relationship. I also once took you away from my best friend, and probably from the outside it was ugly and dishonest. But we loved each other and could not resist this feeling." Mr. Berger pondered for a long time and one day he decided to secretly visit Francis and understand better his son's choice. Francis had just finished cooking, and it was time to go for a walk with the babies. Glenn was capricious and crying, and Rachel was all dirty from eating mashed potatoes. The woman wiped off her daughter when the doorbell rang. She went to open the door in surprise. Tom was on his shift. Who could it be? When a thin, pretty woman with a long, beautiful ponytail, wearing an apron and holding a crying baby in her arms, opened the door, Mr. Berger was taken aback. His wife made him so nervous that he pictured an impudent, nasty woman who had preyed on their son. The man coughed and introduced himself, saying, "Good afternoon. You're Francis, aren't you? I'm Tom's father, Mr. Berger. I thought I'd come to visit, so to speak, to get acquainted." Francis was delighted and led the guest into the kitchen, set the table, and chattered non-stop. "I'm overjoyed, Mr. Berger. It's a pleasure to meet you. I've just got dinner ready. You eat up. Everything's hot. I was just about to dress the kids and take some food to Tom before it gets cold, and at least to take a look at him. I know him. He'll eat fast food again and his stomach will be ruined. Kids and I miss him so much, but what can we do? This is his job and I understand everything." Mr. Berger enjoyed the delicious meal and wondered how this fragile woman had enough strength for everything. The house was cleaned, dinner was cooked, and she had 2 kids to take care of. She looked so pale, and it was obvious that she didn't sleep much. After thinking a little, Mr. Berger suggested, "Let me hold my grandson while you take care of your daughter. It's no problem for me. What's his name? And by the way, we can go for a walk together, and I'll check on my son, because we broke up foolishly and I'm ashamed." Francis smiled and placed Glenn in Mr. Berger's arms. He clapped his hands, reached for the elderly man, and babbled something in his own language. Mr. Berger began to entertain the boy, rocking him on his knee, which made him laugh gleefully. The man felt so warm and good inside. Looking at them, Francis said, "This is Glenn. He has a mole behind his ear. He and Rachel looked so much alike. Sometimes I mistake them myself. You know, Mr. Berger, I love Tom very much. I understand what you think of me, putting my children on Tom's neck. But it's not true. He proposed to me himself. He fell in love with me, and we're excellent together, although it's still difficult because the children are little. But soon they'll grow up and it will be easier. They'll go to daycare, and Tom promised to arrange me to work in the archive with him. I would never have forced Tom, but I see that he is happy to take care of the children. His eyes are full of love. It's a pity that Mrs. Berger doesn't call him at all. Is it because of me? Tom is worried about it. After all, she's still his mum. By the way, Rachel and I are ready. Now hold her and I'll get Glenn ready. Although my head is spinning, but children are happiness. When you hug them, press them against you, all the fatigue goes away." Since that day, Mr. Berger began secretly visiting his son's family, taking kids for walks so that Francis could rest. Eventually, Mrs. Berger was convinced to join them too, and the family was finally at peace. But suddenly, the unexpected happened. One day, Francis received a call from Mario. Hearing his harsh voice made her feel sick. "Hello, Francis. Didn't expect to hear from me. And I see you're not wasting time. Well done. You found a fool and gotten married. But you forgot one thing, my sweetie. The children are mine, and I intend to take them. I'm the birth father, and I have every right to do so, and I can easily prove it." Francis, no longer timid and naive, flared up. "What do you mean? You remembered the children after a year after they were born. They have a real father now. He is a police officer, by the way. And I don't want to see or hear from you. Don't ever call me again. You won't see the children." Mario didn't expect such a welcome and started shouting. "Have you got the nerve, chicken? I have so much money that I don't care about your officer. I'll crush him. And I'll take the kids anyway. I'll make the genetic test and take them abroad if they are mine. Is that clear? It's better to negotiate amicably. Otherwise, I'll make your life with your Romeo difficult." Francis hung up the phone and burst into tears. Concerned, Tom asked, "Darling, what happened? Who called you? Your ex-boyfriend? What does he want? I'm not giving you to anyone, and I'm already terribly jealous." "He doesn't need me," Francis answered through sobs. "He said that he would take my children away, certainly. He mentioned genetic testing, and if I don't give them to him, he'll make our lives miserable. Tom, I'm so scared. You have no idea the kind of connections he has. He can get away with anything. What if he really takes the children away from us?" Tom hugged his wife and reassured her. "Francis, look at me. Don't cry. Calm down. I promise you, nothing will happen to the children. Let's go to my parents now. My father has worked in law enforcement all his life. He'll tell us what to do. I'm with you. We're together. I won't let some autocrat destroy my family." At the family council, it was decided to send Francis and the children to the Aunt Lynn, who lived in the village. Mr. Berger reasoned, "No one knows about her. They won't look for Francis there. It's better to be safe. Meanwhile, Tom digs into Mario's background and find any dirt on him. People like him must have dark secrets. This is our only chance to expose him." Francis quickly gathered the children, and Tom took her to the remote village, to Aunt Lynn's house. It was wonderfully quiet and nice there, with a forest, a river, and an old cosy house. Aunt Lynn took one look at Francis and the children and immediately said, "My dear, you should get some rest and relax. I'll take care of everything. Come in. Make yourself comfortable." 2 weeks had passed. Aunt Lynn had worked miracles, and Glenn and Rachel started sleeping and eating much better, and they were less irritable. Despite this, Francis was exhausted and worried about how Tom was doing, because there was no communication at all. Finally, Francis's wait was over. Tom had come for her. From the doorstep he said, "Francis, I found out everything about Mario. You won't believe it. First, he went abroad and contracted a venereal disease, which made him completely infertile. That's why he decided to think about having children when he returned home. But that's not the point. I found camera tapes, checked his car, and guess what? It was Mario who hit your mum and caused her death. He even got out of the car, realised what he had done and ran away. What a scoundrel! I got everybody fired up. How is it possible to close such an easy case? The evidence is right there. He was so sure of his impunity and ability to buy everyone off that he didn't even bother to check if there was a camera. Now Mario won't be able to escape. He's already in custody, and he will go to jail. No doubt about it." Francis sobbed and whispered, "God, this is unbelievable. I can't believe it. The biological father of my children killed their grandmother. Tommy, please, I need to talk to him. I need to look him in the eye. Is there nothing sacred to him anymore?" "Thank you, my love, and thanks to your dad too." Tom managed to arrange a meeting, and Mario was brought to the interrogation room. When Francis saw this glossy, impudent man with a hard, prickly look, she didn't even flinch inside. Not only that, she looked at him and couldn't believe why she had fallen in love with him in the first place. Why? Mario smirked crookedly and said, "Why did you come? Do you think you can outsmart me? My lawyers will tear this whole accusation apart, and I will still take the children away." Francis asked quietly, "Mario, tell me, did you know that you hit my mother in that street? I've told you about it many times and described where and when it happened. You couldn't have known. How could you? Why didn't you call an ambulance? Why didn't you take her to the hospital? You just ran away. That's inhumane." Mario grinned and whispered quietly, "Listen to me. I was drunk. Your mother died instantly. I checked her pulse. There was no pulse. Why would I call an ambulance? What would you have done if you were in my position? Voluntarily confess to murder and go to jail? Of course, I knew what you were talking about when you told me about your mother's death. What could I have done? Confess? Would that have made you feel better? I made a terrible mistake. Who hasn't made a mistake? Frances was struck by the level of his cynicism and sacrilege. She asked again, "And the children? What do you need them for? Do you have any idea what it's like to have 2 one-year-old children? They're not dolls. They need round-the-clock care. You have to love them, truly love them, give them your best. Are you capable of that? You threw me out of your life. You ran away abroad. You wanted me to get rid of them. And now all of a sudden you want to play the role of a father? Is there any humanity left in you?" Glenn and Rachel adore Tom. They call him Daddy. They wait for him when he's away. They fall asleep in his arms. He wakes up at night for them. We raise them together, take care of them, worry about them. We are a family, a real family. So why do you want to ruin our lives? Please come to your senses and leave us alone. Do something good for once. However, I will never forgive you for what you did to my mother." Mario returned to the cell and began pounding furiously at the wall with his fist in anger. He roared in a frenzy, realizing that Frances was right about everything. In fact, he didn't love children, didn't know them, and didn't think about them at all, for now. The rich man changed girls like gloves, feeling like the king of life. It was only when one of them gave him a bouquet of diseases, which he barely cured, that he suddenly realized he was living for nothing. Who were all these girls to him? His millions couldn't warm the soul, because it turns out you can't buy happiness. So he decided to take Frances's children away, knowing that he would not have the chance to be a father any more. Mario was given 5 years for the murder of Frances's mother, and now he was serving time in the zone, albeit in a comfortable cell. He rethought a lot and even wrote a letter to Frances apologizing for everything and promising never to harm her or her children again. He also asked her to send him photos of the kids from time to time. Frances often visited her mother at the cemetery, and one day Frances said, "You know, Mum, I thought that if I found out the name of the killer and he was punished, it would be revenge and my soul would calm down." Was I relieved when Mario went to prison? Not a bit. You can't be revived. You can't come back. But you know, Mum, I'm happy now. Tom is the best husband and a caring father. We're even thinking of having another child. Rest in peace, Mummy. I love you and will always remember you.